Welcome back, everybody, to NIM Shipyard. Hey, everyone. How is it going? So this is level 2 still, week 1 of level 2, and this is our second masterclass. It's going to be a little different from what we normally do because we're not going to be doing such a long intro this time. Because both our presenters have quite a bit to say, so we're going to be handing the floor over to them as quickly as possible. But before I do that, I'm going to introduce everyone who's with me. So I have with me Clemens, my co-host for today. Say hi to the people.
Hey.
Also Sarinko, one of our presenters.
Hey, I'm Sarinko. I'm DevRel of NIM. I'm focusing on making sure that all the node operators are happy and they're growing in quality and numbers.
And Pomflick as well. Say hi to the people,
Pomflick.
Hey,
yeah, I'm a sailmaker from last year's shipyard.
Sailmaker, nice, good stuff. And now you're here presenting an actual masterclass. So hopefully that's inspiration to at least some of the participants or some people in the audience. All right, so our previous masterclass was given by Hux, of course, about the token economics, how to stake and bridge your tokens and all the nitty-gritty, because level 2 is about the nitty-gritty after the big picture stuff that we're now finished with over the first level. But today we're going to be learning about the NIM network. We're going to be getting a network deep dive from 2 different perspectives. One is the network's perspectives, and the other is the node operator's perspective. So if you ever want to operate your own nodes, then this is the place where you really should be taking notes. And you should be taking notes in general, of course, because all of this stuff will pop up in the exam at the end of next week. But without further ado, I think I'm going to hand over the stage to Sarinko to get started with his presentation. Take it away, Sarinko.
All right, thank you very much. Somebody needs to load my slides. I was told that somebody else is gonna do that, which is, oh, really sweet. Look at that. So today we're gonna put our hands straight on the deck, right? We're gonna start with more practical stuff, and we're gonna learn about how to build bases for becoming an operator, how to start to actually make properly decentralized Mixnet in practice. Next, please. It's gonna have 2 parts, right? The first one is we're gonna go over the network once again, a bit faster this time because you all here, I'm expecting you have seen the past lessons. You've been part since the beginning. If not, you are very welcome. But you need to catch up with the older videos. And then we're gonna go a bit more on a deep dive to what that means to be operator, what we need to understand. Then I have a part 2, and that's updates. That goes even deeper on what Project Smoosh means, what we're gonna do with gateways, and what exit gateway means. But we will save ourselves this one for the next time, for a level 3 shipyard. And instead, we're gonna have Pomflick later after me, talking about how is it from community node operator perspective. Next one. So, as it was said, I'm Sarinko. I'm a NIM DevRel. I'm also anonymity and privacy enthusiast and researcher. That's because I'm interested in these solutions, right? There's a quote I threw on a conference recently that I believe that for communities and societies to truly evolve, they need to live in autonomy and make decisions freely. That is away from the hegemony and the fear of surveillance. That's why I'm doing this job, and why it's important for me that we're gonna have people understand why we do that and how to do that. Next one. But that is in the opposite of how the internet works today. It's not in favor of human networking, but surveillance, censorship, and data extraction. Next one. And again, here I'm going to be going rather fast over that because this is very top level overview, which you all already seen. But as we've said many times, there is important and interesting solutions existing out there, but none of them can really bring any defense to the existing problems, right? We got end-to-end encryption, VPNs, Tor network, a lot of niche innovations, a lot of important stuff, a lot of things we use every day. But on the metadata leak on a network level, there is still missing. Next one. So our solution is, next one, make a privacy generic layer for all internet traffic. And that is Mixnet. the NIM Mixnet, a decentralized and incentive-driven with private credentials, fully private layer 0. Now I'll put reference to the credentials when we're gonna hear more from Claudia, who already spoke about metadata problems. Last lesson was on a token by Huxi. Check that out as well. On the Nix blockchain, Huxi was mentioning that as well as Alex and Ada did last week. So we're gonna zoom in more on the NIM Mixnet and what it really means and how it can help us with, in practice with this defense against surveillance. Next. So we got NIM Mixnet, which is not aligned blockchain, is scalable. Mixnet, which like Tor have multiple hops, particularly on the Mixnet side, 3 hops, and has like some extra niche stuff, some tech which is not really being seen so far, and that's like adding cover traffic on the local side of things, which we're gonna go deep into very shortly. That also breaks all the existing traffic into same size, same looking packets. We call them Sphinx packets before it ever goes out to the internet. And there is a timing obfuscation. That means that there is latency edit, next one, that gives us re-randomization of the packets, right? If we use another existing designs like VPN, which basically moves your trust to just another server, another computer, another provider, somebody who can collect all those metadata, having those logs, or on Tor, which again is great, having 3 hops on an onion network. The problem is that both of these designs are FIFO, right? First in, first out setup. But because NIM is a mixnet, that means that the timing is obfuscated and each of the same looking packets together with the dummy packets, with the noise, is mixed together on the nodes. Next one, please. That prevents us against something which is called correlation attack. That means that if somebody is able to watch the timing and volume of your communication coming to the network and coming out of the network, doesn't matter how many hops that would be, because they can correlate the timing and the volume and say that it's you who is doing the request, the communication, what have you. If we look here on a Mixnet overview, we can see that there is already on Alice's machine, on her computer or phone, if you want, things happening locally, right? So the anonymization, the breaking down of the TCP, UDP, or IP stuff and packets is happening on her machine locally, and only then it's being sent to the Mixnet, and then only then to the internet. But we can look even deeper if you would go next one. I'll open that one as well here, and we can dive into how it actually works. So we got Alice on the left, and we got Bob on the right, and they're using, such as we do, an Element client for metrics chat, and they connect to a protocol through the NIM Mixnet. In the middle, we have the mixed nodes, the 3 layers, which have routing per packet. They have adding latency, and they're mixing with all other users coming to that Mixnet, right? And then on each side, we got entry gateway behind which is the local SOX5 client, which you can run yourself, or you can use our application NIM Connect, which just does it for you. You just hit a button. And if we look on, from a perspective of metadata, there is a "Hey Bob" message going on from Alice to Bob. Well, metrics protocol has it encrypted, so I don't see the content of that message, but I see some noise, and I see some volume, and I see some pattern, I see some timing. But as you see, as it's already leaving from the computer to the first gateway, there is the packets are broken in the same size, anonymized, and edit those dummies in between, the yellow dots, right? Then, well, the enter gateway knows your IP, but doesn't know what you're sending and when you're sending, because you're sending stuff all the time. From there, it goes to the Mixnet. And in the Mixnet, it's mixing with all the users, all the data through those layers. So this is a very simplified picture, because what we have here is Alice and Bob. Those are two people. But imagine how many people worldwide can connect to that. And all their data, all the same looking packets are mixing through the Mixnet. From the Mixnet, the yellow, the covered traffic, is returning back to the same gateway of the sender. So no one really knows what the address is, except it comes back to the client, because the client is sending it to itself, but by that is creating the noise. And then we got going towards exit gateways, all the actual data, but still in anonymized fashion. So we even don't have the correlation between the enter and the exit gateways, between entering and exiting the mixed nodes. Not saying that exit gateways and enter gateways will be able to perform as the same, so one can do the same performance. And then finally, it connects to the metrics server, where still the metrics communication is, there's a network requester as a part of the gateway. Now you can run it as both separated binary, but I'm already speaking about the latest version and the future, how them will be designed. That the network requester is a part of the exit gateways. That means that there is this communication happening from the gateway to the server. And then, yes, you can see the patterns and the volume, but this is actually for the first time when you can see that, because from your computer was already leaving anonymized, as I was saying. Well, from there, Bob is also making requests. So he's basically getting the messages from Alice, he's downloading them to say, and he's sending back, "Hi, Alice." And again, this is very simplified, because imagine that there is the thing in the middle, the mixed nodes. They're not 9 like on our nice picture logo. They are right now 240 active, 650 in total. So you can have like 3, it's always 3 hops. So it's 3 layers. So how many possibilities you have between 200, 200, and 200 mixed nodes? And all the users creating, the more users, the more data, the larger the anonymity set. It also means the less of a covered traffic will need to be sent in the future with more data. There is an algorithm which is optimizing how many mixed nodes are part of the active set, how many of them are needed, because you don't need to have bandwidth. You do need to have bandwidth large enough to send all that traffic, right? Not to get overloaded, but at the same time, you don't want to have too big of a network when you would be spread too thin. And then you can easily kind of pick what's happening on each. It still would be pretty difficult, but it kind of adds on it when you have just about right ratio of the traffic per node. Next. So there is a question we would be asking, but why would I run a NIM node? Like, why I'm not just gonna use that? Next one. So I put multiple reasons, and actually we should maybe run a survey to see why would people run a mix. Now I put like care for humanity, right? You operate a network which defends people against surveillance, censorship, and data extraction. You're allowing for true decentralization, hence freedom, because more and more people live their lives on the digital side of things. You join a community of builders. That means that you are part of some community around like new tech, and you learn a lot. You develop with these people, and you build solutions with these people. Then next one, which is not less important, is monetary incentives. And again, check out Hoax's Tuesday, I believe, tokenomics 101. Running mixed node is rewarded. So you can take a part in an early stage of new tech and make it your business. It can be B2B solution for you or for others, or you can use the profit to donate to some other projects if you wish. So I'm pretty sure that Daniel from Ecuador will be bringing great examples on that side. In the end of the day, we like to do things we like to do, right? So for some, it might be fun, passion. They might be passionate about finding this as like a meaningful occupation. But you know, like the nice thing is that say that Alice wants to run a node because she can't stand the surveillance nature of the internet, you know, and how that plays a role in a growing tyranny worldwide. And she just like can't stand it. So she's like, I'm gonna do something about that. I'm gonna run a node. Well, then you have a Bob, and he trusts the tech, which Nim is doing, and maybe he wants to make some rewards. He wants to start a business on that tech. Well, these are different reasons why to do stuff, but I got great news for you all. Because by doing so, as a side thing, Alice is also gonna make some rewards, and Bob will help to secure decentralized and secure internet. So, you know, like these reasons are not in competition with each other. But many probably watching on having the questions on the real world, like, yeah, that's everyone can say that, but what does that really mean? So next one. So you might be asking like how we make rewards, right? Next one. If we look into tokenomics, what's happening on when the data flow and when how the token flows. Again, referring to the great Hubsian's presentation, but I'll run through it real quick because I think it's important to give us a little bit of understanding what happens when Alice actually wants to use Mixnet. So she takes her name tokens, and again, that can be your fiat, that can be your Bitcoin, but you will go through Gate on a backend, which will buy name tokens for that once you pay, and those name tokens will be spent for getting ZK name credentials. Those are zero knowledge proof credentials proving that you have bandwidth. That's number one. Then number two, the transaction at the same time is validated on our blockchain. It's separated from the Mixnet, but it secures the Mixnet. And in the last lesson, there were great reasons why so and how does that work. Then three, you spend those credentials to access NIM Mixnet in a very near future NIM VPN. Then you start sending your data through the Mixnet. That means that number five, gateway sends, you get it from the client, as we showed, that the gateway sends anonymized data with the dummy packets. They do all the Mixnet thing, which you just talked about. They go to the exit gateway, which has network requester as a built-in part of that established secure connection to your application, to your friends, to your services, sends the packets to the destination. Well, that's number 8. But at the same time, what's happening on number 9 is that as the mixing is happening on the Mixnet, and the traffic's running through the exit gateways, the NIM API is basically counting the work done by the nodes for their mixing or for the sending the traffic through the gateways. That part's not active yet. It's happening, and we'll be updating on the next session, and calculates the rewards based on that work. So the owner of the nodes doing that work in a given epoch, and everyone who delegated on top of their nodes will, by the end of the epoch, get the rewards. That's the reward incentive out there. Next one. Then how they are distributed. We can have a look on each epoch end, which is 60 minutes right now. There is a mixed mining pool, and from that there is a distribution of the token of something which called proof of mixing. That's basically like proof of work, but not the same exactly. And in order of operational cost first, which is set by the operator, and then anyone staking on top of the node can choose like, oh, this may be too expensive or not. You decide who, actually PwnFlag will show us how and, what are the metrics to make that decision. The operator's profit margin, that's a percentage the operator sets as, I'm gonna get this percentage before anyone else is gonna get any percentage, right? So it's set by the operator, and again, it helps you to kind of choose, because the operators, they do have some special work. They might want reasonably so have more rewards, but at the same time, you can look for what kind of makes sense. If somebody doesn't try to scam you, again, word to PwnFlag very soon. And last, and the major part, the biggest part, is distribution which goes proportionally among all the delegators being staked on top of that node. That also includes the operator itself with their own self-delegation or bond. Next one. Where are we? I have to click to see as well. Here. Sorry. So for an operator to get rewarded, the node which they operate and anyone staking on top of their node must be part of an active set. That means you have some nodes which are active in a given epoch and some which are waiting to get active maybe later. And there are some metrics which are decisive for node to be chosen to become active. One is node routing score. It's how much it's reliable, how much it's online, basically. What's happening is that there is a API running a ping test to the node, and if the response comes, if the response comes 100 times out of 100 pings, then it's 100%. So you want to get as close to 100% as possible of your time, of your node time being online. You need to choose a good machine accordingly to that. That's for another time. And 2 is the stake saturation. Closer you get to the optimal number of a stake saturation, the higher the chances are for you to be part in the active set and better reward ratio. Next one, please. So the question is, what is stake saturation, right? How do we get to that? It's a reputation system which works as a defense against Sybil attacks, as well as against centralization. And as a side effect of that, it creates a buy pressure and stake pressure on them tokens. So how does that work? We get maximum stake in supply. That's at all circulating supply, the unlocked supply, plus 10 extra% of the invested name tokens. From that maximum stake in supply, we can count target staking supply, which now is set up on 40%. So 40% of max staking supply is target staking supply. Then we take this number, the target staking supply, and we divide that number between all the nodes in the active set. Right? So we take target staking supply, a number of tokens, and we divide it per each active node. That is a stake saturation number. Next one, please. Before I go more into numbers, I would like to say that stake saturation is also not everything which you have out there. What's important to look after is also reputation. How would I put it? Maybe to understand things that it's not only about stake saturation being the thing. There are other metrics maybe to say. So the Sybil attacks prevention has another trick in a game. And that's the nodes whose operators bond themselves larger size as a bond, they get slightly higher rewards in our system. This is to basically incentivize the node operators to rather make one solid node than to start to make many nodes. And you can imagine if I'm a bot, then I'm going to spin many Sybil nodes, then this will be very disadvantage, whatever. Excuse my French. But at the same time, you get fear, you get a downside of that, and that is that we can create centralization by doing so. So to put a whale prevention mechanism, there is a thing that the stake saturation is at best than 100%. The higher you get closer to 100%, the better reward ratio and the likelihood you're going to be part of the active set. And I think you get over the 100% will not yield more rewards, but in fact, your reward ratio and your likelihood to be part of the active set is going to decrease again, and actually quite fast, rather dramatically. So we get these two features reinforcing each other, making sure that the Mixnet has a reputation, that you need to put quite some money, quite some skin in the game for your mixed node to have the reputation, to have that stake saturation, but at the same time, and that works as a Sybil attack prevention, but at the same time, you got the centralization, or like the defense against centralization and whales. So you combine kind of like the good utility part of crypto without this kind of just like, yeah, whoever gives more part of crypto. Next one. If we look, and I'm going to be finishing here, 23 minutes in. If we look in the current statistics, this is all in native NIM token, right? The unlock complete stakeable amount is 556 million. We add 10% the locked unvested amount, which I was talking about, we got to nearly 580 million tokens. The stake amount now is 162 million. That means that the stake level, which I said the target staking amount now is 40%, so the staking level is 28%. So there is still quite some room to go, from where we are to the stake saturation level, for people to give them more incentive to stake more tokens without us have to adjusting anything. So the target staking amount now, according to the calculation I shared, is 578 millions. 40% of that, that's 232 millions. And to get the stake saturation, we need to divide these 232 millions between the active mixed nodes. So if you look on a mixed nodes, there's an explorer. There's several of them. Again, I'll leave that hanging for pawn flight. There's total, when I was writing that last night, 626 mixed nodes. 240 of them are active at this very moment. So you get 3 lines of 80 nodes. Pardon. So if you divide 232 millions between 240 actual nodes, that's going to give us the current stake saturation level. Before I go to the next one, I want to say that if we're looking at already existing 626 mixed nodes and only 240 based on the algorithm is needed for the network to be just enough functional, not too spread thin, not to overload it. That means we can go 2.5x on bandwidth, just like this, and get, the network will still be running. So that gives me quite some confidence in the network itself. It's not a bad thing to have, non-active set nodes. It's actually, it's a security. Next one. So if I do this calculation, which I was just sharing here, I get to a current stake saturation. And that is 100%, the full stake saturation per node is 963,000 NIMs. If you look at the price, which is today about 12 cents, it equals, in US dollars, 115.6 thousand, okay, per node. So to get full saturation, 100%, you need to put $115,000 on each node. Next one. Well, that's a massive number, right? Like, that's not something you want to do. And that's when we talk about reputation. That's when we talk about delegation. And that's when we talk about Sybil prevention. But don't be worried. No one's expecting you to make this alone. Okay, therefore, there's the delegation. We're also going to have delegation program, which we're going to introduce very soon. Because 150,000 is a large sum, but it's for better and for worse. Because you can look for others in operators community. Join our element. You can find people there alike. Of course, we have Discord, we have Telegram and stuff, but I'm not going to be honest, I'm not going to propagate those ones as much. If they are comfortable for you, go there, but I'll be definitely waiting for an element if you need any help. But more than from me or from anyone, you can create squads with each other. And this is very important. You find each other, look for no trust verify example. This is a great crew, international folks who are running all different stuff, not only on NIM, right? They are not part of NIM. They are a core community squad, which is running nodes as a private solution as well as a business. If you're new and alone, maybe you want to start with trying to find these contacts, go through Shipyard, look what is there, and start to delegate on others. I wouldn't say like, hey, you know, like start many nodes. No, that's not the way to go. I think it's better to create a good reputation within the community. Look for others, make friends, build some trust. Again, you can do this all anonymously. You can go to our element and make a pseudonym, and you don't need to KYC anything like that. And do your research, right? Check for the VPS, check for our documentation on nimtech.net/operators, where we're starting to have new features like updates on the new exit gateways, which I'll be updating in days and weeks to come, as well as some legal informations and legal forum for the community and stuff. So you can find regional stuff, you can find legal advice, and you do your own research. Don't rush into starting a node that can burn out, because this is not set and forget thing. This is something you need to be upgrading. This is something you need to. It's a live machine, which there is. The privacy versus surveillance is a constant race, so there is also a constant upgrading of the tech. You can't just like let it spin and kind of forget about that. So I think it's better if you make a solid plan, right? Like with slow growth, good connection, good reputation, and make sure you're like committed to what you're doing, instead of like starting many nodes and then get very frustrated and say it doesn't work. Because that wasn't the problem. The approach is what didn't work in that case. So next one, and here I'm gonna finish exactly on half an hour on my watch. I wanna say that we aim to build private, secured, and decentralized internet, to enlarge the space of freedom, where people can live their lives, make those decisions without fear of surveillance. But I just want to make clear that us, the core team of Nimtech, we are not, first of all, an operator. We build that software, we put it out there, we explain it, and we provide support how to run that. But we are not the operator. You are the operators. So it's up to you. If you want to have really decentralized internet, bring feedback, bring what doesn't work, try it out, make connection with each other, and do it in as many places as possible, because we can't do that work ourselves, right? That would be, once again, a centralized quote-unquote cloud. That's all from me. Thank you very much. And I'm passing my word to whoever is gonna be, if there is Q&A or if Ponflake is gonna go right on. Thank you so much.
Beautiful presentation.
Yes, thank you so much for these great insights, Serenko. It was really an amazing presentation. Can I ask you a few questions before Ponflake takes the floor? There is one question from Pechinta Copy. What's NIM difference with Monero Tech globally and in detail?
I do not know all the other names you mentioned, and I would be happy to learn about them and study it. But I can go to Monero. I love Monero. But the difference is Monero is a payment network, right? Monero is, let's step back. Alice wants to send money to Bob. And they want to make sure that no one can see the time, the amount, and the destination of this transaction. Well, use Monero, great stuff. But that's not going to help you on anything else outside of the money transaction. Also, need to say that Monero has the metadata problem, just like Zcash or Signal, like all the great solutions, because that's another level, that's the level under that. So in fact, Monero and NIM are not what's better. It's a different stuff. And it's more like that, where you can run your Monero wallet on top of NIM. If you spin NIM Connect, it's automatically and Monero wallet at the same time. Check out our developer portal where there's how to do it. You do like 2 little changes in your settings to put different. You turn on proxy SOX5, You put 127.0.0.1 on a host, and the correct port. You just copy it from the NIM Connect. You don't have to listen to these numbers from me. You copy it there, and it automatically runs on top of NIM. So it's just, we talk about different things rather than what's better. So compatible together, but I don't know the other projects you named. I'm sorry for that.
It was the name of the person, Pechinta Copy, that asked the question. And from Papu Podel, he's asking, is the exit node and mix node the same thing?
So to save time a little bit, I would invite you, dear comrade, to have another discussion in level 3 where I'll be explaining all of that. But their functionality is not the same thing, right? The mix node, what it's doing, it gets anonymized traffic from the first gateway, the entry gateway, or from another mix node, depends on which level it is. And it mixes that traffic together and passes it on to the next destination. Then the exit gateway gets the traffic, as each of them also have another set of keys that finally gets to the keys when the exit gateway decrypts that. The exit gateway, if we speak about that one with the network requester, it's already passing into its built-in network requester part and sees, okay, this is for that destination, and sends it to the final destination. So their role is quite different in a Mixnet. It's distinctively different. But where we're aiming to, and check nimtech.net/operator/FAQ smoosh, FAQ, or how's it called? We're aiming to have all those in one binary. So for an operator, it's not going to be so much of a hassle. Okay, am I running that? Am I running that? Because currently we have up to 3 binaries, mix node, gateway, and network requester. So operator just builds the binary, or downloads the binary, whatever you want, run it, and then either will choose which parts of a Mixnet they want their node to play, or the solution in the end will be that actually it's only, you have to allow all of them, and an algorithm kind of chooses what's needed based on the network traffic. So as for operator, the binary will be 1. As a functionality, it's very different. Next.
All right, so these questions actually ended up being a pretty good prelude to your next presentation, right? During level 3.
Yeah, exactly. I actually got if I would be saying next, people would see that I got a lot of those slides actually built. But no, we got a few announcements. We got few kind of nitty-gritty details and important stuff for the next time. So rather, let's give a word to Ponflag, who's actually longer in NIM than myself in a way. So I'm looking forward to see that. Thank you.
Exactly. So how Serinko mentioned, NIM is just here to write down stuff and create the ideas that you guys end up running after all. So one of the guys who has been doing that and who's a NIM community OG is Palmflake, and he's here to present about basically the same things that Serinko mentioned, but from the operator's perspective. How can you be a successful node operator? What does it take to run stable and profitable nodes? Take it away, Palmflake.
Okay. Hello. Sorry. So it's called Operator Deep Dive, but it's more of a operator's paddle from an operator perspective. So let's go into the slide about me. Okay, so I kicked off my journey in NIM at the previous shipyard almost a year ago. And prior to that, I had no experience in anything privacy, no experience in Linux, no experience in programming. But it was actually through Shipyard that this changed. It changed a lot for me. I started to, there's great education in Shipyard. However, I learned by doing. So from Shipyard, I worked with Linux. I learned to script in Bash, and also started programming, which we'll look at a bit later. I would suggest to anyone that's currently in Shipyard that they look for, oh, I just realized the emoji on the slide is wrong. They look for like Pineapple Hive for me. That grew out of the OG Shipyard. As a lot of you will know, the founder Hux, who did the previous lesson. And that's been sort of like a hive of ideas, help and support. Anyone currently in Shipyard can find a group or create a group. This will help a lot. They were a study group for the exams. So I suggest if anyone's going to make one or find one, that's probably the best thing you can do right now. This will also help with what we'll get into later, which is, gaining visibility and trust within the community. So from that, I live in Bali in Indonesia. So I started to run infrastructure in Indonesia. I've now branched out into Thailand as well, and to cover the Southeast Asian area. But we'll look a bit later. There's some opportunities that I'm already looking at VPS providers for. Elsewhere, Africa, New Zealand, and founded Explore NIM, which came out of the idea sprung out of last year's Shipyard, and we'll look at that in a little bit. Next slide. Okay, so why provide next-gen privacy infrastructure? So I'm gonna kind of go through what it was for me, because each person will have a different reasons for running this infrastructure. For me, I live in Indonesia. It's very difficult to reach some websites, some applications on my phone. I've got at least 3 crypto exchanges that I cannot access without a VPN or NIM Connect. So for me, that was important to bring the infrastructure to my location. It's kind of like a selfish a selfish thing because it was required. On top of that, there is, you can start your Web3 business. There's a commercial aspect to it as well. And another thing that I'd like to touch on is NIM for good. Now, there's already quite a few operators that I didn't actually realize until yesterday, that are doing things for good with the rewards from their nodes. I actually really like this. I will touch briefly on a story from roughly a year ago. There was an earthquake, sadly, in Indonesia, and quite a few people passed away from this. Now, a friend of a friend, her mum sadly passed away in the house as it collapsed. And her dad was seriously injured. That touched something for me, and I sent some funding up. Originally for funeral costs. Now, to my surprise, the next day, I was sent back a picture of this person had taken that money and had set up a relief shelter with food, rice, eggs, and some clothing for these different people. Now, for me, that I think is something that we can really help with by using NIM rewards. And for me, that's something that I'm looking at doing now. But as I say, there are members within the community already doing this. I think this shows a little bit of a problem right now that we're trying to address, and that is that these people, it's hard for them to show what they're doing with their rewards. So we'll look a little bit on that as well, and how we can sort of improve that. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. So for a brief setup, for me, when I first started, I found I'd never touched, I didn't know what a VPS was. I'd never touched Linux. What I want to say is although it looks very complex, You see all these packets and it goes around and mixes. From an operator's perspective, NIM has built a really nice piece of technology. And for us, it's actually really simple. We just have to focus on that piece of software running well. We don't have to worry about this packet going there and you know, who's communicating with who. That's taken out of our hands, which is really helpful. So I'll just touch briefly on the sort of requirements. And if you're thinking, oh, I'd like to give this a try, I'd like to spin up a mixed node. It's fairly simple. So firstly, I would suggest you go and look for a VPS provider. Now, the reason I would suggest this is because they can keep the uptimes and look after the hardware, and you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about power cuts, internet problems, and things like that. But there is a level of research into finding a VPS provider, and also decentralization, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But for now, yeah, a solid VPS provider with, you know, good uptimes. I will just say you can run this yourself as a local server, but as I said, you have issues with uptime and internet connections, which we'll touch on now. So you would need an IPv4 and an IPv6 connection. This is not the easiest thing to get, especially at home. These, you know, an IPv4 static is usually for residential, not really a thing. But if you have access to these things, probably a business line, you could potentially go for a local server, and that is quite a big step forward in decentralization for the network. I would suggest if you did this, you state this within your description of your node, you know, because it is a big thing and not many people can do it. You will also need a NIM wallet address. You can just download the NIM wallet and create an address. That's for bonding the node once you do it. Okay, so technical documentation. There's a great amount of technical documentation. Although for someone just starting out, if you've never touched the VPS or Linux, there is also automatic scripts. This was one that I created out of the end of last shipyard. As for me, I was going through the technical documentation and I found it difficult to follow. So I recorded everything I was doing because I was worried I would forget. And out of that ended up, learning some programming and then putting it all into a tool. And that's actually really simple. If you wanted to give that a go, you can. I'll show it briefly later. Very simple. Also, community resources. Now, No Trust Verify, you've heard this name, very big in the NIM community. They have some amazing resources, but they also have within their GitHub awesome NIM, which contains a compilation of all community resources, not just No Trust Verifies. But I would say, for me, going through No Trust Verifies repository, you do find some quite helpful little things in there, goodies. Okay, next slide. Okay, mixing rewards. Sarinko touched on this. I'll just briefly go over it. The operator cost, from an operator's perspective, currently what I do is this is going to sound a bit, I ignore the operator cost. I just put the bare minimum. Now, obviously, this is there for you to cover the costs of your electricity, your VPS. Your monthly VPS, and I guess if you can have extra costs for monitoring services and things like that. But right now, where the network is, I would highly suggest that you don't play with this too much. Obviously, if you are in a very decentralized location, some VPS providers are rather expensive. In that position, you should raise your operating costs to cover. But if you're in a very like Germany, for instance, VPS costs are extremely cheap. So definitely look at that and consider that, but we'll touch on this later. Don't go crazy with the operating cost. Okay, your bond. Now, for bonding, obviously this is important. It's a bootstrap for your node. You're coming to the network and you're saying, this is what I'm putting forwards as my base trust level within the network. And delegators can see this. So definitely consider that they'll be looking at it. It's not like if you can't put a massive bond, this is going to be a problem. But obviously it's helpful if you can put a bigger bond. But this can start at 100 NIM, and you can certainly be successful. You can certainly get known in the community and find delegators. Don't feel like if you haven't got a lot of money right now that you can't do this. You can. If you do shipyard, I'm sure you take part in the quizzes, you will definitely have enough to spin up your own mixed node. The profit margin. Now, this is another thing I wouldn't go too crazy with. People can see this, but I currently run at 5%. Other people run higher, some run lower. It depends. As we said, some people are running a mixed node for good causes. Now, if you're running a mixed node for a good cause and you explain this, then a higher profit margin might be fine, because the delegators they want to help this cause as well. So not to worry, but definitely have a look around at what other operators margins are running at, and then sort of place yourself where you think will work best for you to attract delegators. Next slide. Okay, optimizing rewards. How to mix more traffic. So optimizing rewards is basically mixing. You're trying to mix more traffic, because for traffic mixed, you gain rewards. Okay, next slide. Now, node uptime and routing score. Okay, so for node uptime, if you have a really good VPS provider, you don't really have to worry about this. Yes, I would still suggest monitoring, but getting a solid VPS provider is the number one for this. However, there are a few things that I want to add. Your routing score is not just your uptime. It takes a score of a route between multiple nodes. So it will pick a 3-node hop and it will average between all 3. So it can drop even though someone else's node is having issues. So don't always panic if your routing score lowers temporarily. Don't panic. Monitor it. I would say don't worry too much if it doesn't drop below sort of the 96-94% range. This is kind of normal operation, even though the VPS has been up 100% of the time. So monitoring. Now, when I first started, I didn't obviously know anything about monitoring. Some VPS providers allow you to do some monitoring of your uptimes and things. You can use like an explorer to see if you're mixing traffic, but this is very base level monitoring. I would like to say there is a tool from NodeGuru, Telegram bot. You can go there and just plug in your node, and it will ping you. I believe it's as soon as your node goes below 85%. I've not actually had it do that in a long time, so I can't remember the exact percentage, but this will ping you if there's problems. However, I'll say that for me, it's more important to know there's problems before the routing score drops. So I believe No Trust Verify has has a little tool that works directly with the NIM network to see if traffic stops. However, I'm working on a tool that will monitor. It will monitor the VPS itself for CPU usage, memory usage, internet connection. You can see the packets. You don't necessarily have to look at what the network's telling you. You can see the inbound, outbound packets. You can see if I don't know, if someone was trying to denial of service your node or something. You can see a lot more, and you can get alerts straight away before something goes wrong. So that's something to consider. We'll touch on that briefly later. Updates. While it's not necessary to update your node every single week, keeping the binaries regularly updated is highly recommended. However, right, okay. So if it's a small update, I wouldn't worry about updating straight away. And there's a reason for this. This is a decentralized network. Now, if everyone updated at the same time, the network would fall out, and no one would have a network. So I stagger mine. I roughly go within a week. And the first reason that I came across for this is because of the routing score. If all 3 nodes start updating at the same time, it seems to drop you a lot more. So definitely play with this. Don't necessarily, as soon as a GitHub release comes out, update your node straight away. You can wait a couple of days. Now, in the future, there will be a major update. That's a different story. If it's a major update, I believe that everyone will have to update at the same time. However, for the small updates, which is in the version number, you've got 3 numbers. The last ones, if the last number, so you have 1 number dot, 1 number dot, and then a number. If that number updates, you don't have to worry. But if the middle number updates, then that will be a large update, and I would have thought that's where everyone will have to update. So don't stress too much about updating instantly. However, I would suggest not to leave your node for a long period of time without updating, because delegators can also see this. Okay, next slide. Okay, active mixed nodes. I'm looking at the time. I will have to start speaking a bit faster. So the thing we worry about is none of the top. We're just worrying about the active set of the mix for the mixed nodes to get in the active set. That's where we get the rewards. Next slide. Okay, operator bond. When you first initialize a mixed node, it will require a bond to the network. So as we said, minimum bond is 100 NIM. I believe the maximum is 80,000, but I don't think anyone's actually reached it yet. So I kind of touched on that already. We'll skip across. That affects your reputation, but Sarinko's kind of touched on how that affects it. So we'll move to delegations. So delegations is, after everything we've spoken about, delegations is the single most important thing that will help your node get into the active set by increasing its reputation, because the majority of your reputation comes from the community. This is why it's so important to be known in the community and gain some level of trust. So adversaries can't come along and just kick up nodes. So yeah, let's go to the next slide. Sorry, I had to rush this bit. Next slide. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So node settings, fair monthly cost setting. I kind of covered this, but fair monthly cost settings. Like I said, if you're running on a really, cheap VPS provider, I would keep this low. There's no reason to throw this up. You can you can show your profits in the profit margin, where you, like I said, reasonable profit margin. I would attempt like 5%, but 10% is doable. Personally, I wouldn't go above that. Okay. Remember to describe your node. So when you go into the documentation, you'll actually see there's a way to describe your node. This is really important to explain what your operator, your ethos, your mission. This can really attract delegations. So definitely fill it out with all of the information about how you want, why you're running the node, what you expect to get out of it. All of these things will really help attract delegations. Community visibility, join the socials, just be part of the community, being part of Shipyard, building groups, joining lectures, asking questions in the chat. These are all things that I've done. I've got like 47 POAPs now from all the events. You'll be surprised. It takes a little bit of time, but if you stay consistent with it, you really start to show up. I'm not great at creating content, but creating content and building helpful tools, form community. Pineapple Hive was massive in the last Shipyard. I'm excited to see what comes out of this one. And No Trust Verify, obviously very well known in this community, have amazing tools and mixed nodes. Okay, next slide. Okay, I'll cover this really quickly. What do I do? What do we do as Explore NIM? When we start a node, we're looking to decentralize the network. We're not looking for the most profit possible. But for us, decentralizing the network, we look for a location, a country with no infrastructure. So no other nodes. VPS provider, we look for a local provider with good reputation and uptime. However, this does come at a cost that potentially you're not going to have the best uptime. But so far, no issues at all. Bond, I choose to bond 10,000 NIM to bootstrap the reputation. As we discussed before, this is totally up to you. Operations, we keep our VPS up to date and secure. You can reach out to me if you want about securing a VPS, not running as root, lots of different things. Just DM me and I can advise or help with that. And updating the binaries within 7 days of release. Attend events. Yeah, we got 47 POAPs and build tools to help the community. So we will look into today's new beta release. I think I need to share screen. Okay. Can you see the screen? Salazar, sudo. Are you able to see? Maybe I can go to chat. Can someone in chat? Yeah, okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so this is Explore NIM. This is something that I started working on since the last Shipyard. Many reasons. As I first started out looking for somewhere to delegate. We'll breeze through this quite quickly because time is ticking. So this is a general for people just coming to NIM. Now, I would see this from an operator's perspective that this is what people are going to see when they come. We will look at tools, the map. Okay, so this is a map. This shows all the mixed nodes all over the world. You can zoom in, they are clustered. I'm going to have to go through this quite quickly because this has gone over a bit. But you can search for different mixed nodes, decentralization. You can look at state saturation. Now this is a beta, so there's things that aren't perfect, but we would love feedback on this. You can look at all sorts of different things. One thing I'm going to touch on quickly is that this is what I would like to avoid. Okay, what just happened? Oh, yeah, they're not decentralized. Okay, so, okay, we have nodes. Let's just pick one here. This is what we have to be really careful with. This node estimated APY is 1.44%. Now, what they did as an operator is they had a low monthly cost, and they got delegators to come along and delegate to their node, at which point they raised the monthly cost to 11,000 NIM. As part of this tool, I've added some warnings to sort of help people delegating. Now, yeah, don't do this. This is really malicious. Yeah, I don't really know what more to say on that. I'm certainly working on ways towards helping delegators gain trust, because this is very malicious activity. Please don't do this if you're starting a mixed node. I'll briefly go over, you can go in to the delegation calculator. You can enter the amount you would like to delegate. If you wanted to delegate 20,000, this will tell you, what sort of daily rewards you get, weekly rewards, and your APR. As you can see, the APR on this is terrible, because most of the rewards that come each epoch that we spoke about is going straight to the monthly cost. I would avoid this. This node will lose delegations rapidly. Okay, delegation advisor. This is an advisor, simple tool at the moment. If a delegator was looking for maximum returns, this is where we were talking about maximizing your rewards. This is where your nodes are going to fall. Okay, so these nodes have low profit margins, low cost, and really high uptime. Now, if you wanted to go more towards decentralization, as you can see, some nodes do both. They're decentralized. They don't use the same VPS providers. They go into countries where there's no other nodes, and still give great performance. I would suggest that you, as an operator or a delegator, try to go towards this decentralized return on investment and push forward with that. There's also a section here for decentralized nodes. I did notice, we'll go to the map quickly, but this node here, I thought it was a bug, but it's not. It's actually a mixed node based on an island in the middle of the ocean. As you can see, VPS in this area, higher cost, so 180 NIM monthly cost on this mixed node. To search, for instance, we'll just look at no trust verify. You can just type in no trust if you know the name, and you can see no trust verifies, all of no trust verifies nodes here. Okay, this is now live in beta. I would love to get some beta feedback on this. So if anyone wants to, just drop in the feedback here. And as far as supporting Explore NIM, these are the two nodes that Explore NIM run. And I think that's it. But yeah, go check it out. It's there. Have a play around. Okay, there we go.
Excellent presentation. Excellent presentation, Pamphlet. You kind of downplayed the beta release, the big beta release of Explore NIM.
We're out of time.
Anyways, truly excellent presentation from the operator's perspective. I believe we have quite a few questions. We won't have time to for all of them, but we will make sure to ask at least a few of them. Take it away, Clemence.
So we have one question from Ilya S. Do I have to run the node 24/7 to be eligible for the rewards? Is there any top 100 or top 50, for example, of all node runners which will be rewarded?
Okay, so Sarinko's probably good for answering this, but I'll go into it. It's all good. Okay, so you can actually do some. I haven't got much time. I want more time. Okay, so yes, it's down to how much trust your node has, whether it joins the active set. If it joins the active set, you get rewards based on your performance, basically. However, you could turn your node on and off. I wouldn't suggest that you do, but you could, because from my experience, if you've got 100% saturation, when you turn that node on, it's likely to get picked.
Great answer, and thanks for the recurring great questions.
I do want to add something quickly though, Sudo. What you can do in your wallet, this is more deep level, but what you can do is you can move your node around, and I've played with this already. You can move your node around just by rebonding the IP address of the node. I've looked at this as a backup for, if governments try and shut down your node, you've got a backup ready and it just swaps.
Amazing. All right, Serinko, I think this next one is probably for you. So this one is from Aslan Husseinov. Thanks for the great question. When you pay for NIM DVPN by credit card, and then it converts to NIM tokens to pay for, what's the difference from any other VPN that you pay for with fiat as well? I think this is a great question.
Yeah, that's an amazing question. Thank you. If you can pull my slide 15. Meanwhile, I'll say we can look on different metrics or different optics how we classify that. One, the difference is you're still getting better product. You do get objectively better thing than if you just get a so-called decentralized VPN. Because you can choose whether you're gonna be running a Mixnet full-on privacy, or you're gonna be running the NIM VPN, which we'll introduce more and more in coming time. Actually, the next presentation is by Mark, who will be presenting about that quite in depth. So first of all, you get better product, but on a privacy as end user, if you look on the NIM data and token flow picture, which we're sharing here on the screen, you break the connection in between your payment and your data, and that's the most important part, because if I do run a VPN, whether centralized or decentralized, I can always go after whoever runs a node or runs the centralized server, in the case of centralized VPNs, and say, give me the logs on that user. In some jurisdictions, they are fully obliged to be storing those logs. And whatever people is going to tell you now, like, oh, we're never going to give it out and stuff, when a court comes with a decision and the law enforcement knocks your door, well, most people are not going to shut their business in order to protect your logs. They're simply not going to do that. Well, then you can say, well, NIM says the same thing. Why would I trust you? And that's the beautiful part. With this flow, you don't have to trust us because it's not about trusting or not. It's encoded in the tech itself that there is a zero knowledge proof. So if you choose to do pay with your credit card, the moment you get the credentials, they have zero knowledge proof done through a new cryptographic solutions, which will be then spending the data. And then because each packet runs through different nodes on a Mixnet, it's very, very difficult, and I would say impossible, to go after operator and then say, hey, we think those packets were running through this node. And even if it was possible, then the operator themselves, they don't have the keys to open and decrypt the data on their node. So you get multiple protections as a user when making a choice to pay with your credit card against making the choice on a VPN. Last but not least, I would suggest you to not do that. That's your choice, and you still do reveal that you did such purchase. And it's not about what I think about banks or governments or not, but it's about these things can change anytime in the future, and you will never be able to take back what you just did. So if you do have a possibility to use another solution, my personal take is do so. But if you don't, you're still pretty safe according to the tech we have out there.
Exactly, excellent answer. And this is one of the oh, I muted myself. Exactly, this is an excellent answer, and this is one of the most important features of the Mixnet. It makes your payment and your actual traffic, so the user that you are, unlinkable through anonymous credentials. Thanks for the answer. I think we have time for one more question. Clemence, want to take it away?
I have a cute one for Pound Flake. What did you do before joining Shipyard?
Okay, so Do you mean like for a job? I guess for a job. I was a high-rise rope access technician and traveled the world hanging off skyscrapers. We're cleaning windows, basically.
That's a dope
Wow.
job.
Yeah.
I mean, shipyard is cool too, but you know.
It's much safer behind a laptop.
Anyways, thank you guys for the amazing presentations, and sorry for the viewers for running a bit over time. Hopefully, you enjoyed it just as much as we did. Now, as the tradition goes, we're going to be sharing the secret phrase with you for this presentation and this masterclass, so that you can claim your POAP. Salazar, please share my screen. Exactly. So our secret phrase for today is Amargi. I don't know how to pronounce it.
You do great.
Amargi. Okay, cool. So then, as usual, we ask our participants why they chose this, why they chose the secret phrase. In this case, I have to ask ask Sarinko, because he chose this one. Why did you choose this one?
So I chose this one because what that word means is an ancient Upper Mesopotamian word. You can say like ancient Sumerian or Kurdish word, which describes freedom. When you ask anyone today what freedom means, you know, they'll be talking at length, but not really even understanding themselves, and definitely not agree among others. But this is the first word describing freedom to be documented ever. And it describes freedom not as necessarily a concept, some like, you know, set of values or something, but as a particular reference to a particular reality, which is outside of the Sumerian city-state and outside of slavery and the you know, the pushed obligations that people had under the new regime. That's why I like it, because it means freedom, but it means also a particular, you know, set of values, culture, and the way of life.
All right. Well, that makes, at least in my personal opinion, this the best secret phrase. Monaghan's was not bad from Hux's presentation, but this one is extra ultra powerful. So good one, Sarinko. All right. So moving on. As to how you can claim your POAP for this event, you need to go to the usual link. So it's nimtech.net/go/POAP, which will be shared in the chat as well on YouTube, and enter the phrase with the exact same spelling. So make sure that it's all caps, Amargi. But you only have 15 minutes to make sure that only people who actually attended this lecture can claim this POAP. Moving on to the next steps. One of the important things, this is the first time we're going to be shouting this out, but this will become increasingly important as we're getting closer to level 3. Join the NIM Matrix server. Hopefully a link will be shared in the YouTube chat, so so look around there. Basically, as Hux and I explained it during our opening presentation, during the opening ceremony, the NIM community is structured in this environment of privacy invasive technology, with a town square, which is our Discord server and our Telegram server, and a castle, or the NIM offices, as we also like to call it sometimes. And the inner circle, the castle or the offices, is definitely Matrix. So if you want to start running a node, if you want to get involved with level 3, it is increasingly becoming important for you to download a Matrix client. We recommend Element. It's a pretty good one, and join the NIM Matrix server. So see you all there. The other important thing, of course, as always, is to do the reading. A reading list will be shared with the debrief of this masterclass on our Shipyard Announcements channel. Make sure to read everything. We will also share a link to Explore NIM so that you can check it out. And please make sure to leave Pamphlet some feedback if you have any. It is shaping up to be a very exciting Explorer for all of us. Also, please keep an eye on your inbox, because today, this time for real, the reward info for level 1 will go out. I'll be making sure of that. Tomorrow there will be 2 events, so it's going to be kind of a packed day. There will be an AMA. So if you haven't managed to, if you didn't get the time to answer your question during this short Q&A for this masterclass, then please make sure to join the AMA tomorrow, which is going to be with Claudia, our chief scientist, Sarinko, who you can see just one below me. Also Pamphlet, one above me, and Huxian, who you already know from the previous lecture, and many others. So this will be at 2 p.m. UTC, which is 4 p.m. CET. See you all there. And right after, we're going to be jumping on a Jitsi call, which is a bit more a bit of a different setting, and we're going to be having yet another squads workshop. So if you're interested in joining a squad or forming one, or you just want to find out what kind of squads are brewing as part of or as a result of Shipyard, then make sure to join that as well. And for joining info, keep an eye on our announcements channel, because we're going to be, of course, sharing all the details as usual with you at links and whatnot. And with that, I would like to say goodbye to everybody. Once again, I would like to thank both of our presenters for their excellent, amazing presentations, and see you guys on the channels.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Suda. Bye.
Everyone.